Welcome to the Cincy Postcast. I'm your host, Kevin Wallace, and before we get into today's episode, I want to tell you about our sponsor, Streetside Brewery, because if you're needing some beer for the 4th of July, this holiday weekend, they've got you covered. Check them out at your local neighborhood grocery store, wherever you're picking up beer. You can always check out their tap room as well, which is awesome. They've got a ton of TVs, but it's still a relaxed, chill environment and awesome patio that is pet friendly. And they've always got different food trucks. They have a rotating food truck in this week as well. And as well as events like live music and bingo on the 4th of July. Jonathan Cody White playing from 3 to 6, bingo at 7. Then you have music this weekend as well. Joe Cowles, Dr. Hugh, Gary Burch and the Blamers. There's a whole bunch of great stuff going on. If you want to check them out, and you should, in the tap room over on the east side of Cincinnati in the historic Columbia-Tusculum neighborhood, head on over to 4003 Eastern Avenue or just Google Streetside Brewery like everybody else does, and it'll take you right to one of the coolest places to grab a drink in Cincinnati. Huge thank you to Streetside for sponsoring this and many other episodes of the Postcast. And on today's episode, well, it was a hot, humid, and weird win for FC Cincinnati. Not the most thrilling or engaging match, but we get a hell of a performance from Luca Orellano, and a lot was learned about this team. This makeshift defense just put together a clean sheet, and Roman Celentano looked great doing it. A lot of cool stuff coming out of this match that really projects into the future where this team is going. In part 2, we are joined by the American Outlaws Cincinnati Chapter Vice-President Zach Blandford to talk about the American Outlaws, to talk about online fans with the U.S. Men's National Team, Weston McKennie to FC Cincinnati. Zach is a great conversation. Love this conversation with him in particular. And then we wrap it up in part 3 with a DC United preview with Intern Luke, and that'll be your episode of the Postcast. Joining me to talk about all of that and more, I'm joined, well, at least just for this segment, the Chief. Chief, how we doing?
It's glorious to be here with you on a Sunday night, Kevin. Even better to be here on a Sunday night when, as everything else seems to be falling, and people seem to think the sky is falling around the FC, just the more things change, the more they stay the same. You just get your classic 1-0 victory, just like we all predicted, with a backline held together by duct tape and good intentions and hopes and dreams.
I might be interested to see if duct tape could start next game.
Right. As we all sit here contemplating whether or not leadership in the FC needs to step down and not seek another term running the FC.
The supporters convention is looking to be a contested convention. Oh, it's going to be a mess.
How many pledge delegates does Chris Albright have? Many people are asking.
I'd like to think this is actually how Seattle fans get to act.
Yeah. I had this thought, though, not to get super political. If I gave you a choice right now.
Ooh, okay.
Right now, that you have the status quo that we're facing and staring down the barrel of next year. Or the King Charles, with his king level of power. Like, he really doesn't have anything. He's just there.
Figurehead, right?
Figurehead. Are you voting for one of the two people we've got, or are you going to take the king back for 4 years?
I'm going to ask a super annoying question. Do I get the British parliamentary system as well, or am I just getting the king?
Just getting the king.
I think I'm going king.
Yeah, I'm going king too, right?
If I remember correctly, King Charles is kind of a lib. Isn't he like a big environmentalist?
Big climate change guy.
Yeah.
No, I was just thinking, like, we haven't recorded since the apocalypse happened on Thursday night.
right.
where it was U.S. men's national team rolling right into the debate of,
oh, man,
just there's a lot to say that just we're not going to talk about. But all I can think about is if I've got to have some goofy old dude running the country, you could do worse than King Charles. You get to call him Your Majesty. That's kind of fun. There's this great redemption arc of, you know what? We did our own thing for a little bit. It's not really working out well for us. Let's just go back.
It does feel like there's some pull between the two countries right now, that like the idea of Brexit was that the UK would try to position itself as something of a 51st state and things like that. Like we belong together, people. Yeah. This is where this is headed.
Can you imagine the takes on U.S. men's national team Twitter if all of a sudden we were back part of the Commonwealth again? And like,
if we get to be a part of the Commonwealth, MLS gets a seat at the Champions League, at the European Champions League.
Yeah. Like, what if I'm not just offering you the king. I'm offering you the king, but also what you get is that Leagues Cup is joined by the Premier League as well.
Oh, so 3 leagues.
3 leagues, 1 cup.
Yes. 100%. And to balance it out, the Canadian Premier League.
Yeah, sure. Why not? Why the fuck not?
We'll round it out with 8.
Round 1, Halifax United versus Man City.
with Sporting Kansas City and Toluca to see out the group. Man, right. That could be a blast.
All you have to do is just accept back the monarchy. And just be done with, we're not electing a president every 4 years. We can still figure out, you can do whatever you want during the time period that we have between now and then to figure out the Congress. We can keep it the same. We can do something else. We're just back to the king. And you don't have to worry about this. Like this existential dread everyone's feeling in November. You know who never has to think about that? People that have the king. The king is just there.
So in history, the king is usually determined by who is able to, unite enough houses and gather soldiers and armies to lay claim to the title and then defend the title. So I ask that, or I set us up there to say, who do you think in the United States is most likely to be able to become king of the United States? Or queen.
Or queen.
But probably king.
I mean, the answer everyone's going to hate is old Elon. He's got the rockets.
A space program's a pretty good start.
That's a good start.
Zuckerberg and...
But everybody hates all these people. Everybody hates these, like, anyone that has the means to it, they're all despised. You need to find someone that's at least nominally...
a beloved billionaire that commands the loyalty of millions. That's Taylor Swift, my man.
Oh, no.
Those stadium tours were the setup.
Wow. So it's Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift. King Travis and Queen Taylor. Or Queen Taylor and the King Regent.
Yes.
Travis.
We'll have to learn all of this when this comes. You could do worse monarchy, I think, than that.
Okay, so wait about this. If we propose this, like we're the ones that suggest this to the British, right. And we're like, you dump Chaz out and it's Queen Taylor over both the United States and the UK, I think they go for this.
She seems to be doing well in the British Isles right now. She might be able to unite England and Ireland.
Yeah, unite England and Ireland and, give part of the UK to, Ed Sheeran or something like that. Yeah. And we can make this happen.
Well, there will be like lesser fiefdoms and, counties and stuff that can be run by Dua Lipa and whatever else. Yeah.
Human history stretches back by some estimates to 20 to 30,000 years that humans have existed. Historical humans, or like, we're keeping records and writing shit down. What, about like 5,000 BC, 6,000 BC, something like that?
My line of demarcation is 10,000 years. We have what I'd call modern human society.
Yeah, like we're like, like the Assyrians, or like who's the groups that was writing everything down over in the Assyrians?
Yeah, the Assyrians, the Babylonians are a good one.
Right. So like the first societies that like wrote stuff down. That's that's like, where I think about things, like, your Mesopotamian civilizations.
Yes.
So there's all this history, 10,000 years plus, 2024, give or take. So like 12,000 years of human history. We've only been doing democracy for like 200 of those, 250 of those.
Yeah.
Democracy is kind of an aberration in the history of humankind. Overwhelmingly, we got to where we are with the king.
I like this. All right, so
or queen. Queen Taylor, first of her name.
To go truly democratic, we have to go to my favorite, which is lotteries. Chief, you get the status quo or a random lottery.
Picking a leader.
Picking a leader. The president will be decided at random of people between the ages of 35 and death. You get one random person.
I know a lot of really dumb people.
Yeah, I think this is more interesting.
I don't know about this one. I think I'm sticking with the king.
You're sticking with the king. Okay,
I'm sticking with the king. We're gonna do the king.
Good.
Well,
all of this is more interesting.
All this is like, this theoretical exercise is more interesting than like 95% of this game was.
100%.
No, not 100% of the game.
No,
like
I'm sorry.
Okay.
That was the wrong thing to say. I'm 100% in agreement with you that 95% of this game was forgettable.
Right. What I will say is sort of top line takeaways about this FC Dallas versus FC Cincinnati. Fake FC versus the FC,
yes,
if you will. An FC versus the FC. Back line, they shuffle everything up for this match because they have to shuffle everything up for all of these matches now. There isn't going to be a normal for the rest of the year. It's just going to be varying degrees of what you're going to live with on this sort of thing. So they shuffle the back line up for this game. You have a starting back line of Murphy, Keller, and Yedlin. And they played well, I thought. There were some shaky moments where Dallas had some opportunities. They got wide a few times that I didn't love, but for the most part, it was competent play. I can't be mad about how the back line looked. Roman played well. This team can survive with this back line. I think they're going to be in trouble when they run into some teams that have actual firepower, but they're not going to run into one of those teams for a minute here.
Yeah, it's not too bad, and it looked fine. It's even more impressive knowing that Obi isn't out there.
Right.
That in a small way, the red card is probably good for Obi because I don't know if there's any way he was ever even going to get subbed out of a game during this stretch.
Like it's a forced yes, night off. The red card was just, well, this is a good time to rotate him anyway. It's a fortuitous timing red card.
Yeah.
Yeah, like we talked about it in the preview with this idea that if you're going to like throw a back line together and cobble one together, you wish Obi was in front of him, but they played well. And you know what? I'll tell you this, like, we'll get right to it. Man of the match, Yuya Kubo. And one might say that, we're puffing up a guy that gave us 20 minutes of his time. I don't really think that's the case in this game. Like, this is what he is providing to this team on the contract number that he's providing it on is insane. He has 7 goals scored. I put the numbers up in the post Discord earlier today.
Yeah.
Brandon Vasquez, all last year, striker FC Cincinnati, 8 goals in over 2,600 minutes played. Yuya Kubo in like 1,400 minutes played now, 7 goals. And of those minutes played, he's played at least a quarter of them not at striker being asked to do things besides score goals.
Right.
Which is bananas.
He's basically 2 players in one. That, like, he is your starting striker and backup midfielder, and having both players on your team and able to plug in and play both positions so well, he's literally worth twice his salary. Like, it's almost now offensive that he's not making the number that the MLSPA accidentally put out the first time around.
I would love to know how many players there are in, I don't even want to say MLS history. Let's just talk like, what do we say MLS is? Like a top 15 league worldwide?
Yeah.
All right. How many players are there in top 15 leagues that play on top teams where you're talking about teams that are like, near the top, not just bullshit teams that can't make their wage bill on a weekly basis, where they have a player that has logged this many significant minutes in both a striker role and a defensive role.
Right.
Like how many players are there like Yakubo that have this skill set?
It cannot be that many. He is a wing back, which is certainly plenty defensive. He is a defensive midfielder. And he's also maybe the best striker on the team.
It's not just that like he played defensive mid. He picked up a really early card in this match.
Yeah.
Looked like he was for sure going to get sent off by picking a couple other fouls up real quick. Then settled in and was incredibly competent defending, tracking back, breaking plays up, disrupting offensive attacks, even getting forward. He inserted himself into one play that almost resulted in a goal with a pass up in an advanced position.
Yeah.
Just incredible. It's incredible what he is doing. And on the contract number they've got him on is insane.
It's exciting. Like, I'm so happy that we get Yuya Kubo to watch, to play for this team. He has been such a good, the phrase is servant of the club. Like, he is just so good for this team. And it's really nice that we get to watch him play and thrive and, do his thing with a whole new cast of characters seemingly every single game.
Right.
That he's got Keller and Yedlin behind him on, playing defense. Orellano suddenly on his right now. Like, this is, even if you played defensive midfielder earlier this year, all three of those are different, or at least in different positions. Like, this is insane. And Kevin Kelsey up top, it's fun. It's exciting.
So that was top line. This is my first top line takeaways. The defense was, there's just not enough in this game to go blow by blow on it. So just if we're this is how I want to preview the games. This is I'm making an executive decision on this one. Other takeaway that I thought was interesting about this game, you have the wingbacks with DeAndre Yedlin moving to the back line. It moves DeAndre Yedlin off his traditional right wingback spot. Now, if you're going to do that, the natural choice for your right wingback spot could potentially be Yuya Kubo, where you keep Orellano as his inverted position, but Yuya Kubo's playing defensive mid. So now the decision is made that you have to find two wingbacks to start. And I found it very interesting that the choice made was Orellano playing inverted on the right, and Yamil Assad seems to have found his way into that first reserve choice at wingback. Is it safe to say that he has now lapped Brett Halsey for that position? I think you have to say that based on the usage pattern.
Here's the funny thing to think about, too. Yes, he's lapped Halsey, and not that it was ever in doubt, Isaiah Foster, although we did get a MLS debut of Isaiah Foster. But I think it's interesting that Assad has passed Alvis Powell in the outside back depth, to where rather than put Powell as your backup right back, which is what I think he was at the beginning of this year, and what I think most people, if they were filling out a little depth chart, would put behind Yedlin as being the next best right back, that they'd rather move Orellano over and put Assad on the left than just keep Orellano on the left and plug in Powell. I think that is super interesting that Assad has played his way into this.
I think I would be curious to know if this would still be the case if they weren't so thin on the back line, because they will play Powell on the back line as the center back. They're not going to play Assad back there. So you almost, if they are fully healthy, I do wonder if Powell doesn't get deployed out there. But like with the depth issues they're having, that you have to hold Powell in reserve because he is your first choice to replace one of these people if someone cramps up, or if there's an injury, God forbid, or just if you need someone to come on for fresh legs. That person is Powell now until Miles Robinson gets back.
That's true. You could also put Powell as the wing back, or Yedlin as the wing back and Powell as the center back, but that doesn't really solve the depth issue for sure.
No.
That is interesting. But yeah,
what do you make of this idea of Assad though, specifically? Because Assad he's on, I believe, a supplemental roster spot. He's making league minimum. Yeah. The joke when we signed him was that we were just bringing in and doing Lucho a favor or doing him a solid, right? Because he's buddies with Assad, but like he's quietly played his way into a prominent role with this team,
and he looks good. It's not even like, oh, he's Lucho's buddy, we have to keep him on the team. He looks good.
Yeah.
I love it, and I think it's proof of two things. One is this is Lucho's team. Yeah. That if you're coming into this team, you need to understand that Lucho is in some way, shape, or form running some part of this show. Maybe a lesson Bupensa could have picked up on a little earlier. The second piece is that this coaching staff is really good.
Yeah.
That they're able to take a guy that was cast off, was seen around the league as a bust. And when it was first reported, I think most of our boots on the ground reporters just sort of assumed we were helping him out and giving him some training. We've seen some other former FCC guys and even some other guys around the league just come in when they're out of contract. Maybe they are sort of soft tryouts, but they're always reported as like, we're doing them a solid. We're letting them do some drills so they can stay sharp in other tryouts and stuff. And that's how it was reported here. But man, he like in a must-win game, if you told me Assad had to start somewhere, I'd be fine with it.
Yeah, I would be.
I'd be disappointed somebody was hurt, but yeah.
Right, but this is one of those moments too where I always encourage people just to take a step back about this team, that we get wrapped up in the day-to-day of the FC, and it's getting close to the transfer window. Everyone's bugging about what is this team going to do, who's moving, who's in, who's out. And just sort of remember how far we've come. That Yamil Assad on a supplemental roster contract is giving this team competent minutes and looking good. And as recently as 2021, as recently as 3 years ago, this team couldn't get competent minutes out of max TAM players. Yeah. But like we were signing people to $1 million contracts who could not play in this league. They just flat out could not play. And it's just such an indictment of how this team used to be run. And, strangely, not just about this team, but look at all the teams around this league that struggle to find good players, that struggle to incorporate talent into their system, that are, like this Dallas team. Like this Dallas team, you think they wouldn't like to have a Yamil Assad that could offer him minutes at $90,000 as a backup? Like,
right.
He was out there for anyone, but you know what? This team had the ability to go get him. They had the coaching staff to maximize the value out of signing him. That's just, I don't want us to ever take for granted how great it is to have a front office and a coaching staff that are so aligned and so good at what they do that they can go get guys like Assad and turn them into productive starters and productive minutes eaters.
Chief, here's something to think about. Not max TAM, but max cap charge player that was on this roster in 2023 during the season, Kenneth Vermeer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, goalkeeper's a little different, but yeah, like
not that different though. I mean, in terms of like the money still spends. It's still. It's
wow.
Yeah, it's funny. Okay. So, like, take you back in the Wayback Machine. Like, we're going to preview the DC United game that we're playing on Wednesday that we forgot about. Spoiler alert, we taped all these segments out of order, so whatever. Starting lineup, Kenneth Vermeer, Nick Haglund, Jeff Cameron, Gustavo Vallecilla, Ronald Matarrita. In the midfield, Alan Cruz, Yuya Kubo.
Oh.
Barrial, Acosta, Joe Zhao, and Brenner.
Wow.
And like on the bench for this team were Brandon Vasquez on the bench, got in for the 86th minute, 4-minute run for Brandon Vasquez. Shemislav Titom, Edgar Castillo,
wow.
Avignon Flanagan, Harris Medunjanin, Kamahilo Makocho, Caleb Stanko, Isaac Atanga, and Kimi Ordonez.
Wow.
Like, just how far this team has come in 3 years, 2 years is just it. I don't want to lose sight of it. And we sometimes could lose sight of it just based on the level of minutia we get into. But it's a different world that we're living in, calling on Yamil Assad to come off the bench versus Kamahilo Makocho to come off the bench.
Right. It's funny. I was thinking this too, watching this game. Valenzuela, yes, needs more time at striker if he's going to continue to be deployed there, and that, you know, his finishing will come, I will assume. But he is what Kimi Ordonez was supposed to be.
Yeah. Sure is. He is the hope for a younger generation.
Yeah. I'll ride that wave. Yeah.
So we're talking about Assad on one side. Let's talk about Luca Orellano on the other side, because the other big takeaway that I have from this game is, so Luca scores the only goal of this game, ends up a 1-0 victory for the proper FC, not the fake FC. Luca was goal dangerous all over the place on this game, and in so many different ways. The goal he ends up scoring is an absolute banger from distance. But earlier in the match, he had also come through on a run and just barely puts a ball wide past Dallas's keeper, where I think if you give him that opportunity 10 times, he probably scores it 7 or 8 of those times. And in this moment, just picked the wrong shot shape, and it just goes just wide of the post. Later on in the match, he takes another absolute just howitzer that goes off the top corner of the crossbar, where if it dips another foot, it's goal of the week.
He's so running good away. At that.
And it's very interesting. He's playing inverted. He moved a little around the field back to his traditional position a couple of times. They flipped a couple times during the game. But for the most part, he's playing as an inverted position. He showed off, when we know we joked about it, the dribbly boy. He showed off a set of handles with the ball that usually is reserved for Lucho Acosta, for like quick movements with the ball. This guy's getting better.
Yeah.
And I pose the question to you, Kevin, is he better than Alvaro Barreal was for this team last year?
Oh my God.
It's a trap question, but I'm curious how you're going to answer this.
So let me see. Preview. Let me see if I can intern Luke this. I think he is a better player than Barreal was last year, but Barreal was more important to the team last year. And more of the play went through Barreal, but I think on a, player comparison 1-to-1, I think Orellano's better. I think he's a better player. He's better at shooting. That's something Barreal was never good at. Orellano seems to be competent with both feet. Barreal could do nothing on his right foot. I think one of them, whatever it was, his non-dominant foot was right foot. Useless. Yeah.
He was left foot dominant on the left-hand side.
That's what it was. Yeah. He was useless with his right, which is honestly probably his major hindrance to making a big move to Europe. And Orellano, man, like he's got way more flexibility, and there's more that he offers for an individual game. Like if the game needs him to cross, he's able to cross balls in. If the game needs him to dribble and take guys on, he can do that. He's sneaky good at defense these days. Like he is quick, which will cover a lot of mistakes. He's able to get back in time, but he is shutting guys down. He is winning the ball back in great positions. He's the better player.
Yeah, it's interesting. Barreal's defense, I think he was better defensively in the defensive third. I think he was a better one-on-one defender in the defensive third. Yeah. He didn't start out that way, though. Like it took him a while to pick that part of the role up. I think Orellano is a better defender in the midfield area, though. He does really, really good work at winning balls back and breaking transitions up, or at least slowing transitions up and keeping people from advancing quickly. His defense in that area, I think, is better than Barrial's defense ever was. I think it's a trap question because I think they were asked to do very, very different things based on skill sets. With Barrial, the ask of him was, we want you to engage in interplay with Lucho, and we want you to be someone that is feeding the ball back into the middle to where the attackers are. So you saw a lot of play, 1-2 play with Barrial, where he's looking to get the ball back to Lucho quickly off these quick little interplays, or to get the ball centrally to where Vasquez is and where the strikers are, where the trigger men are. It's interesting with this team now that they haven't had consistent play from the striker position this year.
Yep.
And so there hasn't been that ask to be whipping crosses in from the left-hand side. And so what is he doing instead? He's like, the hell with it. I'll dribble in and I'll be dangerous myself. And that was something Barrial never had that. He never had that instinct in the final third of, I'm going to make a run and try and get to the goal. I don't think he was being asked to do it. But since they've had there's no person that they're trying to feed the ball to from a striker point of view, it's like, you can get to the goal, go get to the goal. And he's taking that and running with it. No pun intended.
Yeah. And we've seen it. Like, he has a really keen ability to shoot from distance. And he's clearly been given the green light to take those shots. I mean, you hit one of those midfield shots, you get a couple of those.
Yeah. You get a chance to do whatever the hell you want to.
But yeah, it's been fun to see him grow. I mean, this is just like, in the back of my mind, I'm always thinking like, this too shall pass, right? That like, he is on loan. I don't know what that loan agreement looks like, if it's sort of a settled and dusted that we can get him for a certain price. If his loaning team doesn't want him back because a nice offer from Europe doesn't show up, or we end up in a bidding war with Europe for him and suddenly he's a DP that we can't afford. I don't know, but man, this is a blast and I'll enjoy it for as much as we have it. But he feels like one who's not destined for a long career in MLS, that he's going somewhere else.
I have a tough time seeing someone that has as many skills as he has and that is showing them out. I have a tough time seeing him staying in this league very long, especially at his age. He's only like, what, 24, I want to say?
He is 24, which is
old-ish.
It's starting to get a little old, but MLS is growing begrudgingly. Its respect is growing around the world. I think teams are going to be more willing to snap up these guys.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting. They're going to have a choice to make with him, and it'll be interesting to see how the roster rules evolve, because he is a player, and this is where I do wish Grayson was here, that he is on the cusp of being a designated player if they re-sign him, because I think his purchase option is $4 million, which you have to spread over the course of the contract. I don't know what his wage bill is going to be if he signs here, but I assume it's going to be pretty decent. And at that sort of transfer fee, I don't know. I've never had a straight answer to this question. Can you sign a guy to a 5-year deal and spread the transfer fee over 5 years? Or is it limited to 3?
So this is so funny. We were talking about this. I don't remember where. Grayson and I were talking about this. The answer is, according to what has been published in other stories and per the reading of the rules, it is whatever the length of the contract is. So it could be 5 years. It could, in theory, be a 10-year contract that you give him and spread it out over 10 years. Our thinking was, Grayson and I's, was that the rules used to be 3 years sometime in the past, like 2019 or something, but that has since changed. Or the rules on MLS's website have just gotten more vague, but that might actually be the rule somewhere else. I will say this, though. As of May 1st, when MLS released all of their roster profiles and all of that jazz. So again, MLS PA has Luca Orellano making $89,000 and change this year, which is the league minimum, $89,000. FCC's roster profile designation for him has him as a TAM player. So if that's the case, he is making more than $600,000, but his team is currently covering all but 89,000 of that. So that's why the MLSPA is reporting that. But yeah, so his salary to, is probably in the neighborhood of, I don't know, at that number, $600,000, $800,000 a year. He kind of has to be a DP if we sign him, unless we extend it for quite some time, a 5-year contract for him.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. It wouldn't surprise me at the end of his, I don't know, like based on skill and the fact that he clearly looks like a better player than most of the players that he's playing against on the field. Just like there's a clear talent gap between him and players that he's playing. It's like he was cooking guys on the dribble in this game, just absolutely embarrassing people.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's not going to be a case we trigger the purchase option. It's just an immediate sale over to Europe, like in the January window. That he is he is a FC Cincinnati product for all of 30 minutes between the time it takes for that ink to dry and the ink on a transfer someplace else to be signed.
The EAFC just hit the Game Pass, so I finally got to dip my toes in it. And with FCC, I did not know the game would let you do this. I signed Diego Luna, and maybe the next breath, the game let me trade him away to some other team.
The old sign and trade.
It was great.
I was actually trying to figure out like what would be the mechanism to like make sure that we maximize GAM out of this deal. That like there's going to be a way. Albright will figure this out, but like making sure that whatever happens with this loan, that if he gets an offer from his team and his loaning team gets an offer and recalls him. Is there some way that we can say to all like them, we're going to buy him and then we're going to sell him back to you so that you can sell him to wherever it is that he's going to ensure that we get paid enough money for a GAM offset?
Oh, that's interesting.
Like, I don't know. There's going to be like it's too early to worry about that because there's no rumors at all that anyone's looking at him for this upcoming window. But they tend to materialize quickly when that happens.
Yeah, that'll change.
He could have scored a couple of goals in this game. He was really, really good, I thought.
Yeah. The first goal you mentioned that he put just wide, the build up to that goal was some of the most impressive stuff that I have seen in a while from FCC. It was the classic champagne football, just nice, crisp passing everywhere. Everybody was on it. Kubo had a couple of brilliant moments in that. And in classic postcast fashion, I don't have it up in front of me. I don't know if it was Buca or Valenzuela that
I'm pretty sure it was Dotto the ball fed through.
That's what I thought as well. But Dotto, I'll give the credit to him, had just an inch perfect through ball to Orellano for that attempt. It was awesome. I was so happy to see, which is even more impressive that this game was played in like 110 degree weather. It looked awful. I think it does go down as the hottest game in FC Cincinnati history, which is annoying and upsetting, but man, that is something else. So
yeah, he was phenomenal. I thought Dotto played well. It's funny with Dotto. You watched this match, and there was some people online that were down on Dotto a little bit.
Yeah,
he's another player right now where they're getting quality minutes out of him. They're playing him at striker. I don't think he's a striker. I don't think he has a good nose for the final third yet. Or he does, like, in front of goal, I think that he gets a little bit lost from time to time. That's not to say he's going to develop that skill set. He's, 19 years old, I want to say?
Yeah.
So, no, it's not time to write him off. It's just that what he's being asked to do for this team, I don't think plays to the majority of his strengths. When you see him making those little through ball feeds, though, it's like, oh, yeah, this is prime attacking mid behavior right here. Like, this is stuff where That's the kind of stuff you see that and you suddenly feel a lot less nervous if all of a sudden you needed to give Lucho a night off with the kind of play that you get out of him with that.
She really is sort of Acosta's backup here, but also it's like, okay, even though he is playing up top with Kelsey, he's clearly not being asked to do the same things as Kelsey. Like Kelsey's the big body guy, hold up play, win the headers, right? Whereas Dotto is much more about linking that play and filling in that space when Acosta does drift wide. And so he's just being asked to do different things. So yes, he's starting up top. Yes, he's starting as a striker, quote unquote. I'm not ready to say, oh, well, our starting striker hasn't scored next number of minutes, he's garbage. It's just not quite what he's being asked to do. Now, that being said, he's getting very close over and over again to scoring a goal. I would very much like to see a goal go in, if nothing else, just for him in the league. He scored in Champions League earlier this year. I feel pretty sure, at least against the Jamaican team. But yeah, I'm not worried about him whatsoever.
No.
He's doing great.
It was frustrating on offense. There were frustratingly few chances, I think, for both teams on this. Powell, late in the game, has a really nice... Right after Orellano scores the only goal of the game, Powell comes down, screaming down the left-hand side. And the best way I could describe it is he runs out of talent a little bit. That just whatever was left on the stamina meter on the video game, there just wasn't enough to do something with the ball. He takes like kind of an extra unnecessary touch and then is in a position where he can't put it past the keeper on the angle. But I mean, other than that, I think Dotto had one chance that he kind of scuffed in front of goal. There just wasn't a lot going on, but I never really felt in doubt on this game either. It never felt like Dallas really put the FC under siege. There were a couple of decent chances they had, a couple crosses that were just mishit or didn't find whoever they were looking for. But for the most part, it seemed like it was pretty competently defended. I thought Roman played really, really well. His distribution continues to be a little bit of have its moments, but it got the job done in this match, I thought.
Yeah, he showed well, Roman, in this one. And yeah, the back line was perfectly serviceable, if not good. So I'll take it. Keller, I will say, I want to give my man some credit. Kip Keller taking over the central role on this back line and looking good doing it. He is the guy ultimately subbed off, but I was very impressed. Again, for a guy that was seen as maybe not going to make it in this league, to doing this is, again, a testament to the coaching staff for getting these guys up and a little bit to the talent acquisition guys that can recognize a diamond in the rough. But yeah, all around, this is awesome to see. It's super fun to be a fan of this team. And games like this, even if we were at full strength, you don't like to see losing. You don't want to excuse losing, but you could see a loss here. Yeah. And the fact that this team, this rotated, didn't lose this one, awesome.
So, not to keep the parade, not to rain on the parade, I do have a question, though. This is my last question of the big takeaways from this match.
Okay.
At the end of this match, in the dying minutes, we see Aaron Bupenza come on the field.
Yeah.
And look, I don't want to pile on anyone, especially someone that comes on like the 87th, 88th minute, I want to say, and probably only sees about 6 actual minutes of game time.
Right.
He did not look good. He looked, look, I'm not there in training. I don't see him. He looked out of shape. He made some incredibly poor decisions with the ball. I think the announcers even called him out on it at least once, which, like, to get announcers on an Apple TV broadcast to criticize the MLS product. I mean, and these broadcasters sucked, by the way. I mean, as long as I'm complaining, it
was not good.
We keep getting stuck with these home announcers from other teams that are, it's a Dallas guy. He does play-by-play for Dallas teams. It just makes me even madder that they didn't offer Tom Tommy G a job, if for no other reason that, number one, Tommy G's a fun listen, and number two, that some other fan base would have to endure hearing the FC Cincinnati home broadcaster as they're trying to enjoy a match. Like, I'm sick of this.
Why did they? I hate that they did it. Like, okay, sure, you've identified this person as being a good play-by-play person. Never put him on Dallas. Like, that's fine.
They're doing it because they don't have to pay for a flight.
Right.
Is what it is that this guy is based in Dallas. They don't have to put him on a plane and put him up in a hotel for a couple of nights. That it's cheap just to have him be the Dallas-based commentator. I get it, but it's fucking annoying.
Don't like it. Also, we didn't even get Tommy G. I did have to listen to a small portion of this via the radio. It wasn't even Tommy G on the radio. So,
oh, really? Oh.
I apologize, and I definitely should have looked this up. I did not see the backup play-by-play. It was not a voice, I'll say, that I was familiar with. I did not catch a name. Omar Cummings was the color commentator, though, and he was great. Yeah. Love Omar. Omar always calls this team the FC, by the way. Yeah. So that's love how you know it's legitimate.
Love that for us. Love that for him. But Bopenza, what are we making of this at this point? Like, because you could forgive him for having been told, we're trying to sell you. Just hang loose. You're not going to be here much longer. And it's just, I'm collecting my game check and trying not to get hurt.
I gotta hope that's it. I also think, too, that, like, with how hot the game was, I'm sure there's a part of him that's just like, I want anything to do with this game. But, yeah, I just really hope that there is something lined up, because if we are hoping on these little spot appearances to be reassuring to a potential buyer, it's not going to reassure me. Not if I'm spending millions of dollars on this guy. I'll go, like, if you were going to spend $3 million on Aaron Bopenza, there are 5 other guys on this field that you'd rather spend $3 million for.
Right.
So I don't know.
Like, I hope there's a plan, because I was sitting there and I had this intrusive thought that, what if we don't sell him and they've got to reintegrate him back into the team? Like, because he doesn't like it. I watched that last night, and the idea of, like, could you see that version of Aaron Bopenza going 70 minutes? I don't think so. And I get it. Like, I get that I don't want to be mean to him because, like, or like, I don't want to be, I don't even know what the word I'm looking for here is, because he hasn't played significantly in 2.5 months.
Right. So,
and, like,
sure, yeah,
trying to work his way back into form, and we're not running him out there for extended lengths. He's going to look awful. Just about any position, any player in that position is probably going to look bad, but, like, it looked bad.
Yeah. I will say this. Contract is only officially through 2025. You'd only have to buy him out for a season and a half. I know he's got options that go out through 2027, but if you've already agreed to take a bath on it, and it's especially the difference between Weston McKennie signing or something, I don't think he'll be here.
Yeah, I don't know. That's interesting.
Chief, you want me to really screw up the timeline for folks?
Yeah.
Mexico out in the group stages.
Wow. Boy, this is this is going to be a fun listen back then. Also, on this match, Kevin, were you as annoyed as I was at the repeated continuous use of the Mario dying sound effect from Super Mario, or from the original Super Mario Brothers? You know,
it's great. When I first watched this game, I did not have the sound up very loud due to where I was watching. I just couldn't hear it very well. So I had no idea at all what anybody was talking about with this. Rewatching it the next day, that was the most annoying thing in the world, and it is shocking to me that it's not a FIFA regulation that teams cannot do this in any way, shape, or form.
If you're gonna do this, because apparently it was video game night, every video game from that era has like a dying sound effect. The Legend of Zelda had a dying sound effect. Contra had one. I can hear these in my head just naming some of these games off.
Pac-Man had one of the most iconic.
Yeah. Like, you couldn't have mixed in about like 4 or 5 different of these if it's going to be a sound effect every time somebody gets a yellow card, especially with the way Victor Rivas was just handing them out like candy the entire match.
Mm-hmm.
That was awful.
What would have been the most annoying video game sound for yellow cards? Because I have one. It's in Metal Gear Solid when Snake dies and they scream, Snake! That would have been great.
There's so many bad ones. I don't know. It would be... None come to mind, but like the Mario one is just playing in my head right now. Is how annoyed I was.
It got in there deep.
It's nestled in there really deep. Or like the sound, maybe the sound like in Street Fighter 2 when you get knocked out and it's just like, like it like keeps echoing. Yeah. Or no, the worst one would be the guy from Mortal Kombat 2 that just pops out and yells "Toasty" in a really high tone of voice.
Toasty.
Yeah, that would get annoying real quick. I understand why FC Dallas struggles to draw fans because they're doing that shit. And like their announcer is talking about the winner chicken dinner Chick-fil-A play of the game while the ball is in play. I thought they wouldn't let him talk over the PA system during these games.
It should not be.
No, it annoys me in Cincinnati when they do the let them hear what a Cincinnati sellout sounds like. I hate that. And this guy was a chatty Cathy the entire goddamn game. Like, just let soccer be soccer. Please. Yeah. I'm begging you, Dallas.
And it's like the U.S. Soccer Hall of Fame, which I hate because it's not clear like what that is actually supposed to be honoring or whatever is there. So you'd think they'd take it more seriously. They clearly don't.
They don't. So I think we need to steal the Soccer Hall of Fame from them and put it at the new mixed-use development in the West End. Your thoughts? And it
should be the American Soccer Hall of Fame. Like, why is Pele and David Beckham? I don't like it. I don't like it.
But you know what I do like?
What's
wins
that?
Wins on the road. 3 points on the road. This team has now won 8 road matches this season alone. You laughed at me when I suggested that we're going to have to start watching for a record to be broken with this team. I think we're on record watch right now with how good this team is on the road.
100%. Did we get more wins or more points on the road than last year now? I forget.
I think both right now.
Wow. This team is already better on the road than last year's team was. Now, let's not worry about home form or anything, but It's really impressive that this team is doing this on the road. It also makes you think MLS Cup playoffs. Maybe we don't need to be top 4.
Let's not go that far. But maybe not. Why is this? Give me your hottest take as to why this team plays so well on the road and struggles at TQL Stadium by comparison.
FC Cincinnati fans are the best damn fans in the United States, pushing the entire world, and they cannot stand the pressure of putting on a good performance for them.
Man, they're afraid of disappointing us all.
Yeah. It's either that or, just to steal another point, it's like back in USL when like the Harrisburg City Islanders would come play in front of 22,000 people.
Just like it was stunning. It's like, where did all these people show up from?
Well, it's their Super Bowl. So we'd always get like their best game, where the MLS 2 teams would always send like all of the bubble guys to go play because it was the only time they'd get like real experience in a big crowd. Right. And so we'd always get like the Orlando City A- team come play us. And we would just have to take like it was a harder game for us than for the rest of the league because people tried harder. And maybe that's what TQL Stadium does to the opposing teams, that they're finally in a good soccer stadium and it inspires them to try more.
Yeah. Maybe it's, I don't know. Maybe they're mad at the way the Bailey's chanting.
Hmm.
Maybe we need to sing better songs. That old chestnut.
More individual player songs. The number one suggestion of
Bigger
all time.
flags flying. If they saw more flags obstructing people's view, maybe they would get more inspired to win. It's a bizarre thing, though, right?
Maybe the Bailey's too good because you need to replicate the environments of these other stadiums.
Yeah, get quieter so they can hear themselves and communicate on the field. We're being so loud, we're disrupting our own team's communication.
That's exactly it.
It would be really fun. It would be really funny though. Like, can you guys tone it down a little bit?
It's like the COVID era games where you could hear all the players screaming at each other the whole time. Yeah.
That was like we were at the last home game. Like they popped smoke after a goal. And I was like, I genuinely worry Roman can't see through this because it was really humid. And it was just like lingering on the ground right in front of him. And I was like, oh, if they score a goal on Roman and he's like, I couldn't see because you popped too much fucking smoke off.
That's going to change the Bailey forever.
Forever. Yeah, God, there's no coming back from that one. I would like to see them play better at home. That's a hot take. I would like to see them play better at home. But if you're going to keep winning road games, that's it's kind of cool, too.
I go back to that, like, what if we win MLS Cup, but they never win a game at home? Like, it'd be fun for somebody.
Yeah, for somebody that could afford to go to the game, that would be great.
Oh, gosh.
Well, that's a match.
Fun.
That was good. I have no desire to go back to Dallas to go to Dallas anytime soon. Let's just not do that again for a while.
Frisco, Texas. It's like FC Cincinnati playing in Piqua or something. Right. Well, we have a very exciting part 2 coming up with this. We're joined by the one and only Zach Blandford. Zach will be at the pitch on Monday, maybe the day that you're listening to this at 9 p.m. for the U.S. men's national team kickoff, because Zach is a part of the American Outlaws Cincinnati chapter, AO Cincy, and we had him on to talk a little national team. We talk about the online fan base. I think had a very interesting conversation about the American Outlaws and toxic fan bases online and why those aren't always the same thing. And the rumors of Weston McKennie to FC Cincinnati. He's a great guy to have on. Really good at this. So, yeah, Zach,
really good.
This was a lot of fun. Then part 3, we got intern Luke to help us preview DC United, and then we'll get you out of here. So enjoy this one with Zach. Before we get to the next part of the episode, I do want to tell you about our sponsor, Cincy Shirts, which is now the home of official Cincy Postcast merch. This is so exciting, and we really never thought we'd see the day, and yet here we are, alive and actually seeing the day. Cincy Shirts has been with FC Cincinnati from the beginning. They've been with the Post for ever now, from the beginning, our very first sponsor. So happy to have them along for this journey. There are 6, count them, 6 different shirts available at this time of recording that you can purchase from their website for real life. This is, again, a real thing that you can do. As I'm sure you know, but I will remind you, they have 3 retail locations, including Fort Mitchell, Loveland, and Oakley Hyde Park, where in those locations, they can print on demand. If they don't have the size of something you want, you can print on demand. I assume this means postcast shirts as well. Give it a shot. Let me know how that goes. If, for some reason, you do not want to purchase one of our shirts, I won't hold it against you. You can use promo code ThePostCincy. That's all one word, all caps, ThePostCincy, for 10% off your next order. This also works with Postcast shirts, so please don't pay full price. Make sure you knock 10% off for yourself on that one. Spread the code far and wide, I guess, and let them know about Cincy shirts and let them know about the podcast while you're at it. Otherwise, the code doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But again, a huge thank you to Cincy Shirts for sponsoring this episode and so many before it. And if I do see you out there with a t-shirt, I will be embarrassed for you, but I will probably give you a high five and tell you well done. So again, thank you to Cincy Shirts. Thank you to you for buying shirts and using that promo code. All right, joining us here in part 2, a very, very special returning guest of the Cincy Postcast. We are joined once again by the Vice President of AO Cincy, the one and only Zach Blandford. Zach, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me. The thing that I want to start out here with is that I did get obliterated in the face this morning with a soccer ball in my indoor soccer game. And so therefore, legally, nothing I say on this podcast can be held against me. I can say anything, and there is no recourse whatsoever.
Your indoor league doesn't have, the concussion sub rule. You didn't have to go out and tell them how many fingers they were holding up through that whole thing.
No, actually, the ref wasn't even paying attention and didn't know I got hit in the face. So I kept doing a timeout sign and waving my arms like, my face hurts so bad, please give me 30 seconds. And she was just not paying attention at all and told one of the players on our team that she had no idea I got hit with the ball.
So what you're saying is she's incredibly competent and should be a CONCACAF ref.
I would actually prefer her over our referee from this weekend.
Oh, Mr. Rivas. Cincinnati's own.
our very favorite referee. I love how many referees we know the names of these days.
Never a good sign. TV Teddy Valentine should not know his name. Scott Foster should not know his name. It's really not good when you start to know the refs' names.
See, this is the problem with Major League Soccer referees is that if I know your name in the NFL, it's because you work out a lot. Or you have a funny way of speaking when you address the PA. Soccer, I know you because you suck at your job. That's not good. Give me the Ed Hockley of MLS officiating, where he's the extra medium shirt and just looking for an excuse always to flex the guns out.
Yeah, we need more hot refs in the MLS. That's what we're missing.
That's exactly what Chief is advocating for.
Clearly. Lawyers who work out.
Blandford, I got to tell you, we needed you back on because, and this is no joke, of all of the episodes with guests, your episode had the fewest listeners. So I needed to help get your numbers up.
Brutal.
And I'm so in fairness, you were the third episode.
We have competing goals here because my goal is to keep my numbers down. So we'll see.
Oh, no.
Thank you for having me back. I was worried that I had been cast off, that you guys had gotten too big for the little people and the ones who got you here, that 12th listener really put you over the top, and then you said farewell to little guests like me. But it's important that people know that you remember where you came from.
I think the reason why we were kind of hesitant was because we know you listen, and if you're on the episode, you're probably not going to listen. That's going to drop our listenership numbers down. The graph going down is just not going to be good if you don't download this week. So before we commit to airing this episode, I need your commitment that you will at least download the episode. You don't have to listen.
I will hit play on it and then go do something else at a minimum.
That counts.
That would be nice.
Yeah. I'm also surprised that you guys invited me in here, considering that at the last home game, I told you both to your face that I had bought a shirt at Cincy Shirts that day and not used the promo code because I thought it was awkward to use it in person. But now that you've invited me back, I will break through. I will get over it, and I will still probably not use the code in person because if
you don't use the code, you're just giving our sponsor more money. So that's fine by us.
That's true.
If you want to be the best fan of the Postcast, you go to Cincy Shirts and you say, I was sent here by the Postcast, but I don't want to use the code because I want to show you how much I appreciate the fact that you're sponsoring.
Yeah, exactly.
Definitely going to need Cincy Shirts to track all of the hundreds of instances where that has definitely happened.
I mean, yeah, that's probably happened a ton just because our listenership is so committed to our sponsors. So, a lot of those transactions where people didn't use the promo code The Post Cincy were probably our listeners trying to help out a local business and saying, you know what, take that 10% back for yourself, Cincy Shirts, reinvest it into some more designers so that we can have things turned around in less than an hour after an incident happens here in this city.
Can I actually tell a quick story about Cincy Shirts that's unrelated to AO, and then we can get to the topic that I'm actually here for?
Yes.
Shoot.
When somebody from the Pride, could have been anybody, started a rumor that Kevin Kelsey had gotten suspended for doing a heart hand sign, and then that was picked up by RotoWire and moved the line for the game about 20 points, according to Bovada, where it then bounced back afterwards when Pat Brennan and Laurel Failer tweeted that was not true. Cincy Shirts, the next day, was able to turn around shirts for me with the RotoWire report on it in about 2 hours. And then I could wear it to the game. So shout out Cincy Shirts. If you ever start a fake internet rumor that breaks through enough that Fox Sports 1 talks about it on their broadcast and the betting line shifts enough that if you bet it, you might go to jail, put it on a shirt. Cincy Shirts can do that
for you. In that very specific instance, we've got your place for you right here.
Yeah.
But to be clear, we don't know who sent the tweet.
No, that could have been anybody. Could have been anybody. Not sure. I'm still working on the internal investigation on that.
Oh, Blandford, I'm so glad you're here because the U.S. men's national team is in the news.
And in the FC Cincinnati news sphere beyond that as well.
Yeah, there's a lot going on here, and there's a lot of different directions I could go with this, but I'll say since you are a part of AO Cincy, I need to officially get your vibe check. How do you feel going into the match on Monday?
I feel like we're going to win, not because we deserve to win or because we're better, but because Greg Berhalter has a talent for pulling out results at the last possible minute to preserve his job. Southgate did a very similar thing today. These guys just find a way to keep their jobs by doing the absolute bare minimum, which honestly, I think we can all respect. I think we can all say, shout out to them. There's nothing more American than being extremely bad at your job, but just good enough to not get fired because it's too much work to find somebody to replace you. But I don't know. I mean, I don't think we're going to win. I think we're going to go out in the group stage in the tournament that we're hosting. That is the only real major tournament we have between now and hosting the World Cup. But the optimist in me is going to convince myself by the time I wake up tomorrow that we're going to win. And I'll show up to the pitch thinking we're going to win. And then I'll go home. TBD.
If you had to put a number on it, what percent of U.S. national team fans do you think would be okay with a loss if it meant Greg Berhalter was fired on Tuesday morning?
An absurdly high number, as I have discovered recently. I already sort of implicitly knew that just by existing in this space, but a number that is like uncomfortably high, like probably, I would say 70% are comfortable with it, and somewhere between 50 and 60% are actively rooting for it. It's just like a very bizarre, I mean, like we all watched FC Cincinnati in the depths of hell. I can't imagine rooting for my team to lose. It's horrible. It is horrible when your team loses all the time. And I get not liking the manager, but my God, like it's just, it is bizarre to me, especially in an international sport similar to FC Cincinnati. The draft is meaningless for FC Cincinnati. There obviously is no draft for the U.S. men's national team. There's no tanking. If you're bad, you're just bad, and you just continue to be bad. There's no Victor Wembanyama coming for the U.S. men's national team. Don't root for them to be bad. That is bizarre to me.
The other thing, too, is that, like, you also don't... It would be one thing if there was some guarantee that, as soon as Berhalter gets fired, we have X manager lined up. That doesn't exist. If Berhalter gets fired, the most logical choice to replace him is probably Bruce Arena, which... I like Bruce. I think Bruce is the best coach that the team's ever had. But like the people that are melting down over Berhalter existing now will melt down just as hard when they're like, well, we need to right the ship. And this is the person who can help us right the ship right now. Like this fantasy that they're going to go out and sign Jose Mourinho, or that like Jurgen Klopp is going to decide to move to the United States and take over the national team, to say nothing of the fact that they're completely different skill sets between managing a club team and managing a national team. It's just this dream world people live in, that Berhalter is the only thing standing between this country and some super manager making tens of millions of dollars that will change everything. I just don't get it.
And the natural choice for who would replace him just accepted a job on our northern border. That person is not on the board anymore. Like all the fantasies of Jesse Marsh being your North Star and who we go to next, he is not leaving Canada after they made it out of the groups when he just started. So then who?
You're going to end up with, you're going to end up with another MLSer. You're going to end up with a Jim Curtin or a Peter Vermees or something like that in Oscar Pereira. Like you're not going to end up with a superstar manager. None of those guys want the job. And U.S. Soccer, especially if they're firing Berhalter, are not going to pay the money it would require a Jurgen Klopp. You're going to pay him $10 million a year? Absolutely not. That's just not going to happen.
And get ready for those friendly tickets to cost $400 a piece if that's the case.
I mean, maybe the American MLS owners all decide to sponsor the American manager position or something. But like, I feel like if they're doing that, that's how you end up with I don't know, our best friend in New England, whose name is escaping me right now.
Oh, Caleb Porter.
You end up with Caleb Porter as the national team manager. That's what happens there.
Yeah, it's bizarre to me. But by the same token, this team has not looked good.
Yeah.
I would argue they have not looked good for a while now. Where is the problem with this team?
That is a great question. Genuinely, I don't know, because they have looked good with these players and with this manager in matches. Obviously not recently and not consistently, but like in World Cup qualifying, for the most part, they looked good. Not great, but that Mexico match that they played here, they looked good. Maybe the solution is they need to play in Cincinnati more often. Something
or play
to consider.
Mexico more often.
Or play Mexico more often. Who may also get grouped. I haven't seen what the score of that game is right now, but I don't know. It's sort of bizarre because you look at where all of these players are playing and you think, obviously, this is the best team we've ever had. But you watch them play, and that doesn't seem to bear out. It's very, very odd. And Berhalter is an amazing manager, but he's not that bad as far as I can tell. He's not great, but he's not Jaap Stam, you know? Like, he's not.
Right.
Few people are.
I mean, I'm not rooting for them to lose to move on from Berhalter. I don't know who the replacement is. I don't have any confidence that they'll conduct a real search that will turn up a candidate who's obviously good or better, has a vision or whatever. They'll probably just put Bruce Arena and I don't know, Vermees on the phone and say, you know, who will accept less money to come coach this team. But I do think that a change in leadership is necessary here. It seems like a lot of these players have gotten comfortable, have gotten sort of complacent. You can kind of see it in some of these games. I don't really love criticizing players. I think they're great players. I think it's poor management and leadership. It's not so much on them. There needs to be a structure and a purpose and a plan. I don't think that they always see it. I think that they like Berhalter, but they don't respect him, and that is a challenge. I think that is a part of the solution, but beyond that, I don't know, because even then, this sort of doesn't make sense. Like we are losing to Panama on a regular basis. That's just nonsensical. That's not the manager. The manager didn't slap somebody in the face 10 minutes into the game for no reason. Like that, something needs to change in the culture as well. And that obviously starts from the top. but we're on a running clock. This World Cup in 2026 for the U.S. men's national team for soccer in America for MLS is very important, and we're currently on a path to just completely squander this opportunity to host games but do nothing with our team that will invigorate folks here to care beyond the way that they care now. So something needs to change, but I'm almost at a loss as to what, because it seems like there's so many things wrong.
Yeah, because in many ways, this is a free preview of what the World Cup looks like. You have a tournament, a major tournament being hosted on American soil, where the United States they're the home team. They can draw a huge crowd of American supporters at these games, and they're just crapping out in group stage. Like, to me, there's no reason to expect this will change between now and 2026. And I almost wonder, to a certain extent, without rehashing a lot of points we've made over the last couple of weeks about the quality of the players on the national team, I do wonder if there isn't something to this idea that, yeah, they're all playing on European squads, but they're all role players on European squads. Like, they've achieved that level of they can go to Europe, but nobody is the man on any one of their teams. And there isn't a guy where you point to him and it's like, for all these really good national teams, and even like the, just merely good national teams, they've got one guy on there where it's like, oh, hell, this guy is the man in whatever league he's in or whatever team he's on. And we don't really have that. And I think that as a result, it just, even though we have players that are on aggregate in better leagues, I don't know that we're on aggregate better off than a team like Panama, which is why these games are always 50-50 coin flips.
I'm going to use this as a jumping off point to make the argument, Chief, that more of these players should come play in the United States in MLS.
Please do.
Which is, I read this quote earlier today from Dylan Brooks, who's in the NBA, who talked about his time at Weber State and how playing at Weber State prepared him for the NBA, despite being a mid-major, despite being sort of this school you've heard of because of March Madness and otherwise don't think about it all. And he said that being the guy helped me know what the guy would need from me. So being the guy on a small school team helped me to understand how on an NBA team to fill in the role of what that caliber of player needs from me to make this team win. And so I think some of these players, you're right, sort of the point that you're making by accident here, and you probably don't agree with my logical next step on what you just said, is that a lot of these guys play sparing minutes, play in some of the cup tournaments, but not really regular starters. They come and go, they fall out of favor, they move around teams. They're not really the guy on their squads. None of them are. Pulisic has gotten the closest, I think, in Milan right now, but none of these guys outside of that are the guy on their squad.
Yeah.
And I do think that there's something to that from a cultural standpoint, which is a lot of what's seemingly broken with the men's national team right now, is leadership and structure and culture. And these guys don't know how to set that tone or how to lead that culture because they've never been in the position to be that guy on their club team. And because there's not the strong leadership and culture from the top on their international team, then who's filling that role? So that's not necessarily to say that they all need to come play for FC Cincinnati in the MLS, although given the reaction that I got to saying like half of something about Weston McKennie coming here, I now hope we sign all of their players and they all come play here because they can all kiss my ass.
The fans, not the players.
The fans, not the players. But I do think there's something to be said about that. If there's just, you're right, there's not players who understand what these moments are because they haven't been in them in a place where they needed to be counted on in these moments.
Yeah.
And there's something to be said for that sort of experience that's not scoring goals or a highlight tape, but it's like understanding when your back is up against the wall and you're down a man against Panama, how do you win that game? Who on the field is sort of locking in, getting folks going to the right places, like leading, pushing people, like who is doing that? Because who has learned how to do that at other places. I don't really know who that is on the U.S. men's national team.
Yeah. Because when they're in those must-win games, this is the fires that promotion and relegation put you in. Like when the team needs the guy, they're not turning to our guys for in that moment. And yeah, you're exactly right. There maybe is something to be said for these guys going to go play for a team fighting for promotion in the championship. Maybe that does help them. But yeah, certainly, being a middle of the pack striker at Monaco isn't necessarily pushing you in one way or the other. I want to ask this in a much harsher way, and this is not an attack on the players, more of an attack on the fans. Do the fans overrate these players because of the clubs, or do we think they're properly rated and there's something else going on?
I think it's a mixture. I think many of these players are very talented. They play for these clubs for a reason. They are very good players. Many of these players are the best we have had, period. And so I think in that context, these players are in many ways properly rated. But people lack the context, as we just talked about, of who these players are at the big clubs they play at, because that makes a difference. Yeah. These players aren't the culture setters. They're not the lead goal scorer. They're not the linchpin of the defense. They're many times starters. They're good starters. A lot of them are very good starters, depending on the league they're in. But I think that from the fan base perspective, and this is more of the sort of Twitter U.S. men's national team fan versus the American Outlaws, show up to a game, bang a drum, come to a tailgate, come to a watch party fan, because I think those are two very different parts of the fan base. The Twitter folks, I think, just, Euro snob is sort of an overplayed word for this, but they just, by virtue of playing in these leagues and on these teams, think these players are incredible on that merit. But then what are they doing at these teams? Where are they scoring goals? Are they in favor? Christian Pulisic was at Chelsea for how long? And how many moments did Christian Pulisic have at Chelsea, much less starts by the end or appearances by the end? That's nothing against Christian Pulisic. I think he's a very good player. He had a great season in Milan, and he has performed very well for the national team when called up. He's one of those guys that seems to love playing for the national team, even above club. He just seems to thrive in that environment. But I think that there is something to be said of, overrating what it means. It's one thing to play for a team. It's another thing to be counted on by a team. Yeah. Lots of these players play for their clubs. They play for their teams. A lot of these players are not counted on by their clubs, and that is very different.
Yeah, it's almost like the thing.
Yeah.
It's like the Weston McKennie thing, where it's like he plays for Juventus, but Juventus has spent the better part of 2 to 3 years trying to get rid of Weston McKennie. Now, to his credit, he's played his way back into minutes the entire time. But there's the story that they're giving away his parking space and his locker because they don't anticipate he's going to be there. They're going to sell him this offseason. Even after he started a full year of games for him, there hasn't even been a thought of, well, we should, acquiesce to his contract demands because he is someone that is an indispensable part of this team we're building. It's like, no, we're not going to give him a raise. We want him to take a pay cut and he can go ply his trade somewhere else. And I think, that is the demarcation with the U.S. men's national team, is that they do not have a player, and they haven't in my lifetime had a player where this person was ever just locked on to a position or to a role in a club. Pulisic, he goes to Chelsea and he can't find the field. He'll have spurts where he looks really good, but then he falls out of favor with a manager. And, he and Lampard weren't on the same page. Lampard goes, he can't get in under the new manager and eventually has to move on. That seems like it's the story for all of these players, is that they're always just one regime away from going someplace else. And it's just been tough for any of them to find traction, I think.
Yeah, and the one exception I can think of to that, who I will call out, is Tim Howard. I think Tim Howard is sort of the exception to many of the ways that we talk about U.S. men's national team players in Europe.
That's just goalkeepers in general.
The three big goalkeepers, absolutely. On this team, I would actually say Anthony Robinson is probably the closest to the nailed-on, guy for Fulham at left back, though.
I mean, Tim Ream is a really interesting one, too, because he didn't play for the men's national team for a long time as an older player, but he's a pretty locked-on starter and important player for Fulham. He's an interesting one.
Both of them, but they don't seem to, at least Reeve doesn't seem to be at that level with the national team.
You always got to give a caveat, too, because it's like they're locked on at Fulham. Fulham's owned by an American.
Right.
And I do think that there's something to be said, and Ream is obviously the most recent player we talked about, but not a part of this. A lot of these players are still fairly early in their careers and finding their footing, and they're in their early 20s, maybe their early mid-20s. Like, part of it is just the life cycle of this team that we're in right now. Like, we came out of this era where there was nobody, and then it was backfilled by these 18, 19, 20-year-olds. Those guys are now 23, 24, 25. But the problem that we're running into, and one of the challenges with the Copa, with last World Cup and with this World Cup, is this is a very important moment for American soccer on a number of levels for the future and building both MLS, the men's national team program, interest in the sport in the country, hosting the Copa America, which has obviously already been pretty close to a disaster for the U.S., hosting the World Cup, having very well-known players whose names I'm not going to say come and play here and bring eyes to our domestic league. Like, this is a big moment for American soccer. And the timeline of this team is not currently lining up with the timeline of this moment. And that is really challenging. But also, for how long do we make that excuse for these players? I think they're individually great players, but at some point it has to click and the juice has to be there. And we seem to get close and then take 5 steps backwards.
Yeah.
So given all that, why is, you can know all this and we can all be, point to where the various issues are. Why is the online fan base for this club so insufferable? Like, we can talk about this, and this is like a very rational conversation about this. Rationality is out the window when it comes to just about everyone that talks about this team online. And it's to a level of almost insanity. Just some of the things that are said by some of the most prominent, like I'll say accounts or people that cover this team. What is it about this team that just drives people bananas?
It's really, really odd. It is sort of hard to understand. I think that you've pointed this out rightfully many times, Chief, which is that a lot of these people don't have clubs, or their club is like Manchester City won the Champions League title when they were 11, and so they decided that team would be their favorite team because it was cool when they won.
Yeah.
That's what makes up a lot of our online fan base. And again, to differentiate between sort of the American Outlaws supporters side versus the like Twitter fan side, because I think I love American Outlaws. I love a lot of the folks that I know through AO. They're obviously imperfect, and they have their own flaws, but their flaws are very different from the sort of Twitter insanity on the other side. There's actually shockingly little overlap between those two in a way that is almost surprising, given what you see with supporters groups kind of throughout the U.S., where the like really unhinged folks and the supporters are the same people.
That is a good point. Why do you think that is?
I think that, I don't know. That's a really good question.
It's weird,
sort of
right?
Fundamental question. Yeah. It's really odd because I will use FC Cincinnati as an example. The folks who are the loudest online are all SG leadership, former SG leadership. Like, everybody is tied in here.
The deepest.
I will use myself as an example. I'm pretty active. I get in people's replies. I tweet out fake rumors. I do all kinds of things on the internet. and I'm the president of the largest supporters group. Like that is a circle. That's not a Venn diagram. Those people, like, that's very different for the U.S. men's national team, which is really fascinating. The AO, for some of the, growing pains that they've had and some of the structural things that people may or may not agree with how they do their business, like they've actually done a fairly decent job of being sort of the like beacon of positivity, which I think that there's a real space for in this. And
have they though? Like, I'm going to push back a little bit on that. And this is not going to be my shit on AO episode by any stretch of the imagination, but I do wonder, does AO not step up enough when it comes to controlling this online discourse a little bit? Because, they are almost flying at 50,000 feet on a lot of this stuff. And I get that. It's a huge organization. It's a big tent organization. But it does seem like, compared to supporters groups for clubs that, do sort of drive the narrative around the club to a certain extent, that the way here in FC Cincinnati, the way the narrative around the club is driven by communications from the Pride, from DI, from Brigade, from all these different organizations and the leadership in these organizations, they're the people, like you said, that drive the narrative. With AO, especially AO National, like it's, even as you scroll their Twitter timeline, they're not offering substantive takes on the team. They're not even offering a lot of substantively positive takes on the team. It's all very milquetoast. They don't really engage in a lot of the discourse around this team. Their leadership is kind of opaque. It always has been kind of opaque. So there's not any people that are prominent figures in AO that are leading the narrative going the other direction. Is there some part of this sort of toxicity in the fan base that is because there's a void of that type of narrative leadership from AO, at least at a national level?
I'll reframe that a little bit. I think that it's not that leadership is necessarily totally vacant or non-existent. I think that type of leadership is genuinely impossible with the U.S. men's national team. They play in a different city every week when they play in different spots around the country. You never get all of these people in one place. When the U.S. men's national team comes here, the U.S. women's national team comes here, you get at most 2 or 3 of the national AO board members. It's not always the same ones. There's not a bunch of folks coming in from different cities. It's challenging because it is extremely decentralized. It's not possible, really, because of how big this country is and because we don't have Azteca where like every game that matters is played there. We don't have that. We sort of have that.
We have that.
And when the games come to Cincinnati, let me tell you, they are something special. If you happen to be listening to this podcast and not living in the city of Cincinnati, which seems incredibly unlikely, come out in September. It'll be a good time. BJ Callahan might be coaching the team again.
What's Dave Sarachan up to?
Yeah. But I think that is a unique challenge here. And I think it's something that we discount even at the MLS supporter group level when we talk about away travel and think about this in the way of, the leagues that you think about around the world traditionally, the England, the Germany, the France, these European leagues that people think of when they think of soccer support, which I would push back on, different conversation. The furthest trip they're making is like here to Nashville, and that's the second closest in the league for us. The closest in the league is 90 minutes. Like,
right.
That's true of MLS, but that's also true of AO. You're not traveling to all of these games. You don't have these folks online showing up to a tailgate or showing up to a game. Like, there's no gathering place, not to get existential about this, but there's no gathering place for people to come together. There's no third place for the American soccer fan. There's no place where you all just happen to come and talk together. And so because there's not that, it's hard to establish that type of central leadership that is listened to and respected in an already sort of the off the railsness of this fan base already. Like, that is hard to get that genie back in the bottle when you can't. The closest thing you're going to get to that is USA Mexico, but we play these games in stadiums with 25,000 people that are too expensive for the normal fan to come to. Like, I think that there are things about the U.S. Soccer Federation and just the geography of the country that make that really hard. And I think that contributes to why it's not reined in more, because these people are all over the place and there's no central gathering place for them to come to.
It is funny if you thought about, like, if American Outlaws operated the way people accuse American Outlaws of being, that, like, you'd expect U.S. Soccer to be pushing talking points to the American Outlaws leadership that would then disseminate that amongst the chapters of being like, hey guys, we need to focus on, if you're a fan of this team, you root for it to win, that Berhalter has the best record going and half these guys are under the age of 23, give them a break. And then, like, you expect AO El Paso to AO Portland to be telling, people something in that frame, right?
It's quasi politics already. That's how politics works. We're watching that in real time with the dissemination of talking points from a centralized authority figure down to surrogates to try and change a news cycle. Like, I'm shocked they don't do that, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and I can tell you, to pull back the curtain here, I'm the vice president of AO Cincy. There was a point last year for 2 or 3 months where my social media talents might not be the right word, volume, my social media volume may be a better word, was noticed by some folks in AO, and they brought me in to help with their Twitter for a little bit. It didn't end up working out because there's just outside circumstances. But getting any information from the U.S. Soccer Federation, much less talking points, is impossible. They're flying blind way more often than you think.
Man.
And so that, the way people think that AO operates like that, if you think that is the way that AO works, which is, I can't blame you for it. It looks from the outside like that is how it works a lot of times. You would wonder, like, why is there seem to be a lack of coherence or organization on a lot of this stuff? Like, why does it feel so different city to city? Why, like, is there not kind of a coherent narrative? Because the soccer federation is like impossible to work with to start with. And then even once you're able to work with them, to disseminate that out to a bunch of chapters who are all like, as I think we discussed the first time I came on, and it's been talked about ad nauseum in channels. The different cities they go to and have chapters in are anywhere from a club has never even considered coming to this city to FC Cincinnati supporters groups that are also AO members and come together when the team comes to town. Like, there's just no uniformity there that makes that sort of thing hard, even if you were to do it. So it's a really fascinating thought experiment to think how could they rate that in? I don't know.
So sort of, I guess, to pivot, because you've been very generous with your time this evening, Weston McKennie to FC Cincinnati. There was a lot of anger among U.S. men's national team fans. I think anger might be a mild word for this.
Yeah.
At the idea of a player like him who's considered, there are levels to everything in life. And I think that, like, if you put like Pulisic on the S tier ranking of U.S. men's national team, McKennie is on that A tier that's just a shade below him, I think, in most people's minds. The idea of him coming to MLS, to say nothing of a team like Cincinnati in the Midwest, that blew a lot of minds. Where are you on this idea of Weston McKennie coming to the FC Cincinnati and MLS? And I want to ask this to you in 2 ways. You can answer this as an FC Cincinnati fan, but I also want you to answer this as a U.S. men's national team fan, too, and put the other hat on as well.
I'll start as a U.S. men's national team fan. I think that Weston McKennie's national team career and development is probably best served by something short-term at FC Cincinnati at best, and coming here long-term is probably not the best thing for his development. That's not an easy thing to say as an FC Cincinnati fan, but I think that that's right. He's played a lot of minutes for Leeds and for Juventus, for all of the talk that we had earlier of how he's not a locked-on starter and he's not the guy. He's a damn good player in Europe. He has had moments. He's been a pretty consistent starter at times. Continuing that trajectory with a team in Germany or France or wherever in Europe in one of these top 5 or 6 leagues on a team that's going to invest in him and play him in the right positions and put him in opportunities to succeed. Like, that is the thing that's best for his career long term. For as much as I like to puff out my chest and talk about MLS and talk about how part of growing domestic soccer in this country is investing in our domestic league, and part of that is bringing our best players home, because that then connects those things together in people's minds and legitimizes this league more, because it's the player that they watch play for their national team and then watch play here. That's coming here for anything beyond a year, 18 months is not what's best for Weston McKennie's career. I don't think that it is like code red nuclear meltdown the way folks on Twitter seem to think it is. That's very strange to me, but it's probably not the thing that's best.
Do you think it would cap his development or hurt his development?
Cap. I don't think it would hurt. I think that it would probably cap. I think the cap is higher than most people, including Chief, probably think. But I think it would cap. I don't think it would hurt.
Okay.
Look, there's something to be said, and this is not even taking off my U.S. men's national team hat, but there's something to be said about part of the reason why a lot of these players' developments have been up and down is they've been in iffy situations. They've not been in consistent situations.
Right.
Like you said, they're always a regime change away from being totally out of the picture, if not loaned out or transferred. FC Cincinnati is, at this moment, probably the most consistent and well-organized team that they would have any familiarity with in the United States. The coach is a former men's national team player. The GM is a former men's national team player. They've trained here multiple times. Arguably the biggest game they played on American soil in their careers was played here. They know this place. They know the coaching staff. Some of their teammates already play here. And the team has now been good for going on, let's say, 2.5 years since Miazga came over. I think is probably what many people would consider the turning point, where we went from not the worst to good, and then we've stayed good since then. That kind of consistency is good for a player's development. That's why I think the ceiling is a little bit higher than folks think playing here specifically. It'd be different if they were playing somewhere that was like a total disaster.
Right. San Diego,
for example. We are not that anymore, folks. We are not a total disaster anymore. As an FC Cincinnati fan, like, absolutely, we should sign him. He's a great player. You figure out how to make that work. He's a great player. He's a young player. He's an exciting player. He's a player people know. He will sell kits. We may get a third kit between the combination of him and Lucho selling kits. He's a great player. And I also want to see all of my favorite players play for my favorite team. I think that that's sort of a no-brainer. Weston McKennie is one of my favorite players on the U.S. men's national team. Why would I not want him to play for my team when he makes my team better? And I went on the internet and said, all of these people are annoying. And then they like tripled down and were like, we're not annoying. You're fat. And I said, I hope we sign all your players. Every single one. I hope we sign Tim Ream away from Charlotte now that we need a center back. I hope we sign Christian Pulisic. I hope we sign Weston McKennie. I hope we sign all of them.
Why not? Bring them on. Is Weston McKennie's...
That would be a great team. Imagine how good that team would be.
For folks that don't know, in the 1980s, we did try this. They made Team USA in the NASL, which was basically the U.S. men's national team played as a club in NASL. And they weren't that good. But no, I wanted to ask you, is Weston McKennie so good that if you have the opportunity, you bring him in, you do it, and you figure out the rest later? Or do they have an idea for him in mind already, and he fits the mold of the type of player that they would like to add, do you think?
I think both things are probably true, but I think the first is more true. I think that a player that is as well known in American soccer circles and has been as successful as he has already as Weston McKennie.
Yeah.
If he has any interest in coming here, if you can make that work, you figure it out. It's just, he doesn't not fit what we're doing. That would be different if he was like oil and water to what we're doing. I don't think he is. I think that there is a clear role for him that he can play.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think you figure it out. I don't.
It does feel like any player who doesn't have an immediate fit becomes a wingback. So like Weston McKennie wingback feels on the table right now.
Here's what we're doing. We're signing Weston McKennie at wingback. We're signing Cristiano Ronaldo at center back. And then we're trading for Leo Messi, who is also going to play center back with Ian Murphy in between the two of them.
Marshalling the defense.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it would be interesting, though. I think it would. My feelings on this are well documented. I think it would be interesting, though, to see how a player like Weston McKennie would respond to the pressure of being the highest transfer in MLS history. And like for all that these hardos online want to bitch about, there's no pressure in MLS. I'll tell you what, the pressure to not be labeled as a transfer bust and someone that never earned or like lived up to the reputation, you're putting a target on your back the second you accept the type of money deal they're talking about to bring him to MLS. And I think that's to sort of tie it all together.
Yeah.
That idea of our players not being the man or not knowing what it means to be the man. You accept a $20 million or $15 million transfer to MLS and the highest contract that's ever been paid to a non-Lionel Messi player in the history of this league, you're setting yourself up for a lot of takes if you don't increase and ratchet up the level that you're performing at.
Yeah. Career-wise, you're putting the burden on, to live up to the transfer expectations, but also to live up to the sort of notorious expectation of the initial wave, that first, or I should say second wave of U.S. men's national team players like Dempsey and Bradley and Altidore that came back and did not qualify in the next cycle after that. It'll be interesting to see how some of these guys respond, because according to, Taylor Twellman said a lot of these guys are looking at potential moves back or for the first time to the U.S. It's going to be a very interesting time to be a U.S. men's national team fan. Zach, I'll leave you with this. 15 minutes left to play. Mexico and Ecuador are tied 0-0. Should results hold, Mexico will not make it out of the group. I need your final prediction. USA and Mexico, who gets out of the group?
I don't think either of them do. Which by the time you post this, we will know the answer to Mexico. Maybe I'm immediately proved wrong. I will say that watching the Mexico game last week and then realizing that there was a pretty good chance Mexico was going to get grouped was way funnier until we then lost to Panama and now are also potentially likely going to get way less funny. Still funny, less funny. I don't think either of them make it out. But in my heart, I do think the United States is going to make it out. In my head, I don't, but I can't help. I'm an optimist at heart, no matter how much I don't want to be. And I want to be a realist. I feel like they win just because the good guys got to win,
You know, Mexico stiffed us on the bill for that wall, and they've been terrible ever since. Many people are wondering if it's karma.
Makes you think.
Well, on that note, Zach, let's get you out of here before we get you fired. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks, you guys, for having me. I'll see you again in 2.5 years when you need a last-minute guest.
We appreciate that. Oh, and a huge thank you to Zach Blandford for joining on such quick notice. Always good to get the American Outlaw perspective on things. And I mentioned it before, but I'll do it again. The Pitch is where they host their watch parties. You'll probably find Zach there, and you can learn more about the American Outlaws there. For nothing else, The Pitch is a great place to watch a soccer match. So
yeah. I'm thinking about starting a rival group, the American In-Laws. which is really just like we just annoy you if you're a U.S. men's national team soccer supporter. Like we invite you to a watch party you don't really want to go to.
We'll have to be at street side, though. Not because it's annoying to go to street side, but because we are brand loyal.
That's exactly right. It's your in-laws' favorite bar, street side.
There you go. We should probably not use that tagline.
No, not at all. No, but go to street side anyway, though. It's phenomenal.
Before we hit the old record button, I did have to, and I apologize, Chief, I have to do this to you. I had to remind Chief, there's a Wednesday match this week that it won't stop in this league. They just continue to show up. And since Chief and I were totally unprepared to preview this DC United match, we decided to ask Intern Luke to do it. And Luke, how much time did we give you to prepare for this?
I think I probably had about 30 seconds before the show, the 30 seconds of Kevin talking, and I think I've come to something I have here.
That's perfect.
So before we get started, you were saying earlier you've been to DC before, right?
Yes, I went one time with my 8th grade. It was an 8th grade school trip. Yeah, we went up there.
All right.
Wow.
Tell me more about this 8th grade school trip. What'd you guys do on your 8th grade school trip?
Yeah.
I also took an 8th grade trip to Washington. Kevin, did you take an 8th grade trip to Washington?
No, I somehow missed the grade school trip to DC, rite of passage.
Yeah. Full disclosure, I also, right after the 8th grade trip to DC, actually moved to DC and lived there for 4 years. But I'm curious how your trip went. How was your experience in our nation's capital?
We did 2 things that were interesting outside of like all the monuments and museums and all that. We went to the Knights Times. I think that's what it's called. Do you guys know what that is?
Was this the medieval times, like the Knights jousting?
Medieval times. That's right.
Why? That's hilarious.
It was like almost in Baltimore. Like, we drove like an hour or 2 hours to this Knights Time, and we had no idea. We sat in a parking lot for 40 minutes in the bus.
Wow.
And then they just took us out. And then the main thing I remember is, you eat with your hands, is what they would say.
There you go. Nothing screams DC than that.
I just there is so much to do in Washington, and they drove you to medieval times in Baltimore for dinner
because it was a history lesson. That's not the right time period.
Yeah, like we didn't have knights in this country. We left that. They specifically left the medieval times to get over here.
We were trying really hard to avoid all of that.
And your number 2, you said there were 2. Yeah. I can't possibly imagine what tops that one, but please enlighten us.
This was a more personal story. Me and my guys, we had my roommates. We were sat in a hotel room, and we had the Chiefs versus the Raiders playing on Thursday Night Football. I remember they had the final play 6 plays in a row about. It was like they kept on scoring, flags, not scoring, flag. And I remember that was just one of my memories from that was just hanging out with my friend. It was like my first time being away from my parents and just hanging out with the guys. And so that was a memory that sticks out to me in DC.
The formative memory.
You trip with the fellas. There ain't nothing like it. Yeah. Of the museums and history thing, which one did you find the best, or what did you enjoy the most?
I mean, the Holocaust Museum stuck out to me because there's so much just like, wow, and that was the one that I remember more than anything else.
Yeah.
Like the hallway with all the shoes.
Oh yeah.
Yikes.
Yeah.
It's not a good look.
Yeah.
No.
You into politics at all? You do politics? Was that like a thing that was interesting to you when you were there?
No, not really. I remember seeing like the Senate building, the former future grounds of the insurrection.
The Senate building is how you're referring to the Capitol building? I like this.
Yeah, my bad.
They actually put both of them in there.
That's not right. Yeah, it's fine.
Oh, you're right in a funny sense.
Yeah. On a more current thing, who do you think won the debate between Joe Biden and Donald Trump this past week?
There is a right answer.
The viewers who didn't watch.
Hey!
Speaking of a career in politics, holy hell.
What a
pivot.
Consider the needle threaded. That was impressive.
So we got Washington, D.C., D.C. United, FC Cincinnati this coming Wednesday. Short rest. We love short rest. There's nothing better than a short rest game when you are battling injury and international absences. Although
maybe
Miles Robinson, if things go as Zach Blandford predicted, or don't go as Zach Blandford predicted, he thinks, much like a cockroach, that Greg will somehow manage to survive yet another annihilation event. But if they lose, we may have Miles Robinson back for this game. I would love that. Kevin, would you love that as well?
I would love that. I don't think Miles Robinson plays in this game, even if we lose on Monday.
He's fresh.
Being the U.S. That is true. If he doesn't play, there's no excuse.
Yeah, no, there is no chance he is healthy, fresh, and we are desperate for center back help if he doesn't immediately slot back in. Like, get out there.
That's not Noonan's thing, though. To like, oh, you didn't practice this week? Yeah, but you're a big name. Somebody just throw you in. He's never been like that.
They literally don't have a third center back if he doesn't play.
You're staring down the barrel.
Working his ass off on the practice field.
Should maybe work a little harder. Yeah. So, Luke, we did ask you for your patented preview technique here for a couple of fun facts about the city of Washington, D.C. What did you find for us?
I don't have much there. I do. My coworker, he loved the subway system there. He told me.
Okay.
I don't know.
The DC Metro.
DC Metro. Great.
Yeah.
Love it. Lived on the Red Line for a number of years. Fantastic.
I mean, I really don't have much on the city. I don't know.
Did they let you take the subway on your 8th grade trip?
No, they didn't. We just drove a little bus around everywhere.
Yeah. My memory of the DC Metro was all of the fares had very specific dollar amounts. It was like $2.73 to go somewhere. It's like, why would you do this to people? But
yeah, it's weird. They used to have these little paper cards that you had to use back in the day before you could just tap your phone or tap like a reusable card to go. And the way that the gates worked is that if the card didn't have any money on it, it would still pop back up like it was valid. The door just wouldn't open to like let you on. And we figured out that if you just followed behind someone during rush hour and put the card through, it would look like you were actually scanning your way in. I didn't pay for a subway ride from like my entire senior year of high school. I think the statute of limitations is run on that crime. So
I think you're good.
I think I'm good on that one. I think I'm hardly the only person.
And then, Luke, did you find a player on DC United's team that we could highlight in this preview?
I would say a player of interest, not a player to watch.
Okay, good.
So,
perfect.
DC has had some red cards recently. I believe Benteke will be out, right?
That is correct.
Yeah. And then last game, it was against the Red Bulls. They had another player get red carded. I looked up Christian Dahome, right midfield. So they're going to be down 2 guys. But the one I went for is, if you've watched DC at all this year, it has literally only been Benteke, it felt like.
Right.
Like he just is scoring hat tricks for him. The other striker is 20-year-old Jacob Morel. That's going to be my player to watch. Our back line is struggling. Let's see how they hold up against this youngster, same age as me.
Does that put things in perspective when you're talking about athletes that are now accomplishing more than you are at a similar age?
So what do you mean? I work on the postcast.
Touche. Scoring a different type of goal.
No, yeah, I'm definitely getting that age where it's like, dang.
Yeah.
Yeah, the dream is over now.
No, it was in high school where I was like, freshman year, I'm like, I had to hit myself with, I don't think I'm going to make it pro. I had to come to that one, Yeah,
it's an awkward moment where it's like, yeah, if nobody has ever brought the idea up by the time you're like 12, it's probably not happening. Not impossible, but probably not happening.
It was like I lived the middle-aged white guy dream. I had Tom Brady as the starting quarterback for my football team, where it's like, hell yeah, it's someone I can look up to still.
There's a great meme going around for the Euros. Some version of this joke surely gets passed around every so often, but it is great listening to a TV announcer talk about like, this guy, barely hanging on by a thread, oldest guy on the team at the end of a long career. You hate to see him abuse his body in this way, and that guy is 33 years old and quite a bit younger than you. That hurts.
The toughest of tough scenes. So Benteke is out.
Luke, I don't want to correct you, and this would be the classic Kevin Wallace thing, by the way, to offer a correction that is in fact wrong. I think the striker's name is Muriel. M-U-R-R-E-L-L.
Nobody cares.
Okay,
nobody cares.
That's the spelling. So.
Nobody cares. I would say though, the back line played well against Dallas. Now that's Dallas. They're not great. Not having to go up against Benteke is big. DC weirdly has had our number a little bit. Like it feels like we play them. They tend to overperform relative to where they are in the table whenever we have these games. What level of nervous are you going on the road on short rest with a short bench, Kevin?
I am as nervous as I have been for all of these games, which is very. I just sort of assume, especially in MLS, that the home team is going to have a considerable advantage. This is not the Premier League or Italy or Germany where you're on a 40-minute train ride or a short little bus ride, or honestly, all of these guys are flying private jet anyway, and you're basically in the same environment. It's a tiny little trip, and you have massive differences in quality of teams from the top to the bottom of the table. It just doesn't exist in MLS. And even if you take a top team like Cincinnati, you take a couple of key players off and put them on the road, it is entirely possible, if not expected, for us to lose this game by multiple goals. So I'm extremely nervous. That's where my vibes are.
This will be our 10th game meeting against DC United. We are 2-5-4 against Washington.
Wow.
Yeah.
Not a lot of teams. Surely we were bad for a while there. But we got better. we usually have made a dent in that.
Yeah,
wow.
0-0 draw on March the 10th. And then the last meeting before that, 3-0 win, 3-0 win by DC United back last summer. That was a rare thumping, if I recall, last year that we took from them.
I somehow have no memory of that. Were we heavily rotated in that one?
Blocked it out for a reason, I'm guessing.
Yeah, Elvis Powell was on the back line.
Yeah, Elvis Powell on the back line. Elvis Powell, Nick Hagland, and Ian Murphy, which might have been our back line if Hagland hadn't gotten hurt.
Might be an improvement on what we're about to put out.
Right. Up top at striker, Dominic Badji and Kimi Ordonez. Yes, this was a very, very heavily rotated squad from the FC on this one. I think this was in the middle of call-ups, I think, for what was it last year? Gold Cup?
Yeah, Vasquez and Miazga were missing. Yep.
Right.
Marco Angulo got a start in this game. Also, I don't know if we're going to bring it up later or not. Dominic Badji just signed with DC United, but can't join until July 18th, I think, is when the window opens. So we don't have to play him. So that's good.
But he can tell them all our secrets.
It's true.
Luke, how do you see this game going on? What do you see? What's your preview?
I don't know, but so it's hard to not feel negative about where our defense is at. But I just can't imagine this DC team scoring. Unless other than a penalty, what they might have on us is a corner set piece or a penalty. In the open play, I feel like we'll destroy them. We have Lucho. I don't know. I don't know. I have no reason to believe that we can't beat these guys.
So you were unfazed. You were uninspired by the clean sheet that was kept against Dallas on the road this past weekend?
Yeah, I was happy with it. It was Roman being Roman a little bit. It had some good saves, but it's also like Dallas without Jesus Ferreira. Peter Musa got like no balls to hit his foot. Like they just couldn't link a pass. And that doesn't feel like on us. It feels like on them more than us, I guess. Yeah.
Fair enough.
Respect that.
Chief,
Kevin,
how do you feel?
Oh, I was gonna go to you next, Kevin. How do you feel about this? Where are you looking? Where's your head at on this?
It's fine. It is what it is. It'll be fine. I like to think, and this is a take I had a center back ago, but like they just need more time. They'll gel. They'll figure it out on the back line, and I think we'll be fine. It actually is nice to see that we have multiple looks with Assad as a fine starter. And we're able to switch up what we're able to do with Orellano. I think it provides a slightly different look than teams were seeing before, because it just means fewer crosses into the box, but it also means a very goal dangerous Orellano is allowed to and encouraged to cut in and fire long range shots that he is weirdly very good at.
Yeah. I am curious if there will be a little bit of rotation. That it wouldn't surprise me in this match to see Brett Halsey get the start with Assad starting on the bench. I think that Woboto will be back. So, I mean, I think that probably means Kubo moves back up to striker with Kevin Kelsey. I'm not as pessimistic on the back line right now. I think that this back line will have problems as it is right now, without Miles Robinson and assuming they don't make improvements. It's like we were talking about in segment 1. This backline will have problems eventually, but in very much the same way that Dallas was missing key players up front, missing Benteke, this couldn't work out any better for FC Cincinnati in terms of not having to worry about just a prototypical aerial threat target man striker that has gotten goals around the world. Is just what a reprieve on that one. And I'll make my prediction. I think Miles Robinson is back for this game, and I think Miles Robinson starts this game.
Man, that'd be so exciting.
Because I do not believe that the Americans are going to win on Monday. I think they are going to get stomped because it is personal to try and knock this team out on their own home soil.
Yeah, we didn't talk about it with Zach, but the idea that Uruguay is going to rotate and rest and go easy is extreme cope.
Oh, it's nonsense.
Knocking us out would be, other than winning it, the best thing they could do in this tournament.
Yeah, and like this is a statement. This is a political statement beyond just a soccer statement. It's like knocking out the world's last remaining superpower. Yeah, no, that's
hilarious.
Yeah, no, they're going to do it for the lulls, if anything else.
Uruguay rotated would beat Panama.
That's absolutely accurate.
Yeah,
that's absolutely accurate. So yeah, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to say I think this is a win for the FC. I think I'm going to pencil this in as a 2-0 win.
Wow.
So I think we keep another clean sheet. I think DC is.
Who starts up top?
Kelsey and Kubo.
Okay.
Depending on what rumors you believe out there, I think Kelsey and Kubo might be the striker pairing for a very long time on this team.
Fine by me. Luke, what are your predictions? Who are your starting strikers?
I'm gonna throw something different. I think Dado Kelsey again. I think with depth issues, Kubo's more valuable on the bench. Like we say before, I think we plug him in where we need him. I think it's more valuable while Dado can just start and give a little bit of a warm up for Kubo. Come in.
Interesting. And the score. How do you think this one ends?
2-1 to the orange and blue.
Okay.
2-1,
and I'm not going to tell you.
Yeah, we'll
figure it out
either way.
I like that. I am going to say, because I'm going to cheat and look ahead a little bit, FC Cincinnati plays Miami in Cincinnati after this game. So my suspicion is Dado Santos up top to keep Kelsey Kubo healthy for the potential 6-pointer against Miami. And I'm going to say FC Cincinnati draws this match 1-1. And I'll say
on brand.
It's a happy draw where it's a late goal for us and we feel fine getting with that result.
Getting the result. Does Miles Robinson play?
Nobody's on the bench.
The rare center back, the starting center back coming off the bench as a substitute. I like it.
Bring him on at halftime. It'll be fine. Ooh, maybe Miles Robinson gets the goal on a set piece. And everybody goes, damn, Berhalter should have had that in the bag.
Do we know where's the Uruguay match? How far would Miles be?
Kansas City. It's not that bad.
That's easy. I mean, shit, he could come to Cincinnati first before he heads out to D.C. In fact,
they usually fly out that night. Yeah.
Yeah. So, fuck, he could train on Tuesday.
Damn.
Well, we would definitely know about it. We would hear it.
Yeah. This is exciting. On the whole, Wednesday matches, thumbs up, thumbs down. I'm firmly thumbs down. Where are you guys at?
Thumbs down. I hate this.
What do you mean? Like
just, do you like watching a match on a weekday or not?
Oh yeah, I love watching this team.
Wow. Okay.
This man is running for political office right now. Luke, if you had to seek political office, what would you want to run for?
Supreme Court Justice.
Famously a position you don't run for.
Oh shit.
I mean, it's a lot of backroom politics.
Yeah, that's what I meant, obviously.
Yeah.
I was thinking of just political position, and I'm like, yeah, I want the one that stays there forever.
I mean, it is the sweetest gig if you can get it.
Yeah.
Other than that, you got to run for the office. What is it?
I just want to be in Congress, so I'll say Senate.
Yeah.
Okay.
Don't put yourself on the 2-year election cycle. Get that nice 6-year term. You know, you can get old, you can be senile, you can sleep at your desk. It's a good gig.
I feel like lieutenant governor is the best slacker job. You're sort of assumed to be next in line for governor. I can't think of a single responsibility that if something went wrong in Ohio, I'd immediately think, damn, the lieutenant governor really screwed us over again.
Yeah, I think that the Supreme Court that's a sucker bet in this regard. Is that you're getting the lifetime gig, but half of the country at any given time just absolutely despises you. The place to be, circuit courts of appeals for federal. It's a lifetime appointment still. You're still a judge. People still have to kiss your ass in your courtroom. But can you name one person sitting on the 6th Circuit Court of Appeals downtown? No, that's exactly right. You can still go enjoy a meal in peace without somebody screaming at you in a restaurant.
Damn, that is a good call. That's a good gig.
It's the dream, baby. Anything else in this match? I think we're all in agreement that this is at least not going to be a disappointing night.
Emil Assad revenge game.
Nice.
I didn't even think about that.
Good. That's good. That's a bullet point going. Yes, perfect.
Yes, the Emil Assad revenge game. Does he want revenge? Do we even know if things ended poorly with him when he left DC?
I mean, he was a free agent, right? Like,
I'll say things didn't go well there. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. He's carrying a grudge. And if he's listening, Emil,
stop it.
I've heard some pretty screwed up things that the DC fan base is saying about you. Don't look into this. Just, many people are noting that they'd be surprised if you did anything in this game on Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
Be a shame if you proved them wrong. Be a real shame, right?
Would be. Chief, I think that's enough postcast. Let's kill it.
Is there such a thing as too much postcast? There is.
The D&D episode was
too much postcast.
Probably about the limit.
Too much postcast. In that case, go fuck yourself, San Diego.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Cincy Postcast. It is a production of The Post Cincy. You can check us out at thepostcincy.com or just click a link in the description to check out some of our written work. It also has links to our social media accounts across all sorts of different platforms, including YouTube, where we are trying to do more and more video content. Please, dare I say it, like and subscribe and leave a comment. But no, that would be really, really helpful. I also want to give a thank you to Jim Trace and the Makers. They're a local Cincinnati band who provided all of the music for this episode. We love having them on board. You can check them out. Again, link in the description of this episode to find out where they might be playing shows next or where you can listen to more of their music. Also want to give a massive, massive thank you to the awesome and very attractive patrons over on Patreon. It is a voluntary subscription that people take out with no real promise of anything extra that keep this show afloat. And we are so, so thankful to those of you that have decided to take that commitment. If you do like the show, or at least just want to engage with other people who have listened to the show and want to talk about FC Cincinnati, MLS, soccer, or really anything else, you can go on over to Discord. Again, link in the description. Lots of links in the description where you can find a link to the Discord. That's where we are keeping the conversation going 24/7. It feels like it's a really fun group of people in there just talking about FC Cincinnati. And like I said, just about everything else. And finally, I'll say it, if you liked this episode, and given the fact that you've made it all the way to the end, I have to assume you either like it or for some reason cannot reach the stop button. Please share this episode with a friend or family member or someone who likes FC Cincinnati. The best way for us to grow is from a personal recommendation from somebody who likes it. And if that's you, please tell other people. And if you don't have any friends, feel free to give us a review on whatever your podcast platform of choice is. We'll take anything we can get. But again, a huge, huge thank you to everybody for listening to this show. I am blown away that anybody listens to this. So again, I well and truly mean this. Thank you so much for listening.